Hey listener, this is Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while swooning, giggling, and often being really confused about England times. Before we get into it, I want to cordially invite you to join our Patreon. We've got over 100 bonus episodes that you can binge right now, videos, extras, and so much more fun waiting for you. Next week, we're coming back with new content on the main feed because we're recapping Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas. Get ready for it because we are so excited to be back. This, the last week of hiatus, we've got a treat for you. While this is technically a re-release, this book was originally broken into 2 parts. I decided to do a re-edit so you get all the goodness in one shot. This recap is the genesis of ongoing bits like Queen Bird, Darkwing Duke, and more. So, come bask in the brilliance that is Tessa Dare's The Duchess deal. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Mel. How's it going?
Oh, I am fantabulous. How the hell are you?
Listener Melody just told me a highly personal story that we can't tell on the podcast, but I'm just reeling from it.
Yeah, can you imagine, listener, a story that I won't share on this medium because apparently I share fucking everything. That's not true. But like my level of share is so much. Is it lower or higher than other people? Lower than other people. Yeah.
From zero to crotchless leggings, this was worse than crotchless leggings.
And honestly, if I were the only one involved, I would share it. But because it involves someone else, I can't.
Right.
You know,
right.
Because I am a good friend. At the end of the day, that supersedes everything else.
Aw, that's very sweet.
So what's new with you?
Let me tell you what I came here to tell you.
Oh, bring it on.
I didn't come here to talk about the Duchess deal.
That's right. She's currently holding a smoothie of some sort.
I am. It's a banana nut smoothie. I just came in from working out. David was leaving to go to the gym, and I was holding this smoothie. And I told him by the end of this conversation, I'm about to go record the podcast, and I'm going to tell everybody about this. I marched up here and talk to you.
Uh-oh.
So now I owe it to him. So this is a phenomenon in Alaska, and I think the Northwest, these little drive-through coffee stands.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think they exist everywhere in the
I don't
States.
think so either.
They haven't in anywhere else I've lived. Maryland,
no, but in
Louisiana, Illinois.
In Oregon, they're big, too. Dutch Brothers is one of the big ones. A human being, yeah.
Right. So, like, a couple years ago or so, a year ago, David just starts showing up with these smoothies all the time. Just, like, constantly has these protein shakes. I'm like, where are you getting those? And he tells me. And I realize it's one of these coffee stands. And listener, if you're not familiar with these, about 50% are regular and the other 50% are like bikini babes, young, hot lady stripper sort of coffee stands, which is totally fine. Like some of them are like literally in bikinis or like something sexy. Some are just like young, hot women. But
wait, in Alaska?
Oh, yeah. Bikini babe coffee stands are a big deal.
But how do you open the window and hand things to people in Alaska?
Yeah. It makes them cold, which makes it sexier.
No.
You don't know if they're cold or turned on.
Turned on.
Like, I don't
Luke
know.
Martineau.
So he's like, oh yeah, that coffee and protein shake stand by our house. And I was like, oh, is it a regular one? Or is it a different kind of coffee stand? He's like, well, I don't know. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go drive through one of these and get me a protein shake. So I do. This has been a long time ago. And I realize it's not like the bikini one, but they're all like very fit, young, college age, like sexy ladies that work at this thing.
Sure.
So I come back with a shake and I'm like, oh, I went and got a shake at your special coffee stand. And he's like, oh, who was working? Was it Amanda? Was it Becky? Was it Christina? He starts. And I was like, you. So now we've got this big joke. We're like, because also I drank the shake and I was like, this is a pretty good shake. So now we've got this joke where I go through and, I'm like, they like me more than you sort of thing. So
cute.
I came back with this shake and he's like, who was it? And I'm going to protect the names of these women because they're just trying to make a living and not be in our personal life. But he's like, you know, was it Danielle? Was it so-and-so? And I was like, it was Danielle. And like, she knew my order. I drove up and she was like, what do you want? Banana nut? And he's like, Danielle says the same thing to me, only she doesn't say banana. And I was like, and he like got I'm like, I'm telling the whole podcast about this. So anyway,
amazing.
But the shakes are really good. I do not think the shakes are why David goes to the coffee stand. I'm going to be honest there. I do
Good
think
for him.
it's Danielle, but
Sure.
I like the shakes. Yeah, what's new with you?
What's new with me? All right, here we go. Today, I was putting Ember down for his nap.
Here we go. How can it be better? How can it be more here we go than what I had to listen to when I first sat down?
Because it's in the same theme. It's in the theme of Melody is a 13-year-old boy.
Okay.
I think this should be a whole segment unto itself.
All right.
So
Melody is a 13-year-old boy.
Ka-chow! So I'm putting Ember down for his nap, and he's gotten to the point where he's very, very independent. And so he wants to do our before nap ritual and then lay the fuck down. And I would like just a little bit of a snuggle, mayhaps, but not really. I don't really care. So he pops up, he like sits up on me, and he's like, okay, lay down. And I was like, wait, I gotta make sure. I just want to hear a burp. I want one burp. And so since we speak...
Wait, Ember says he wants to hear a burp?
No, I told him that. Because a couple of times last week, he burped like while laying down. And then I had to wash the sheet afterwards because he's 21 months old. And sometimes like reflux is a thing. I don't fucking know. So I was like, I just want one burp, like give me a burp. And since we speak Chinese to him, I was like, Ember da ga, because that's basically Mandarin. It's like crazy white girl saying it, but it's, it's Mandarin-ish.
What does it mean, burp? Or
yeah, it means Ember burp.
All the Mandarin I know is from Firefly, and so...
Oh, and that is... woof. That is not Mandarin.
Yeah, believe me, I know. But, same level, crazy white girl Mandarin.
There you go. So then he looks at me and he starts going, Mama Daga, Mama Daga. So I just start burping on cue. And every time he does it, he just cracks the hell up. Like he's like sort of cradled-ish. He was like on my shoulder and then he's moved over and he was like cradled in my arms going, Mama Daga. And then I would. And then he would crack the hell up. We probably did this like 10 times.
Wait, so you can just burp on cue?
Yes. Can't everyone?
No, I can burp on cue. Yeah, no, I can't do it. Oh my God. So... How are we going to talk about England times after this, Melody?
They burped in England times, okay? They just had to say, pardon me, or something afterwards. I'm not going to. So anyway, I put him down for his nap, and he was a little bit turnt after that. Like, it was not a smart mom move, but it really fed my 13-year-old boy soul, and it was nice.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Being a mom is really fun sometimes because I just get to be really, really sophomoric. It's excellent. Okay. Speaking of sophomoric, England times, when you were never allowed to be sophomoric.
Although, I will say that this book is squarely within England times.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say.
Within England times. But flirts a little bit with Sherlock Holmes times. Oh, no. Which I know, historically speaking, I believe to be the same time period in England.
No, it's later.
Listen.
Isn't it
historically
way
speaking,
later?
I think England times eclipses Sherlock Holmes times.
It's not historically speaking. Erin,
because none of this is historically speaking.
As far as Erin's view of historical romance novels, then sure. I can't believe they're not all the same thing.
They're very close to being all the same
medieval thing.
It goes from medieval. England times goes all the way from medieval to like 1925.
See, that is closer to Sherlock Holmes times.
But eclipsed in there is Sherlock Holmes times.
Oh boy.
Is Revolutionary War times. Is Highlander times. Depending on the mood of the story and the location of it.
It's true.
England times is an overarching.
Also, every time we say that, I think that we're wrong. I think that if it's going to be anything, it has to be Highland times, because Highlander times makes me think of Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod and their swords. And
Are you honestly worried about being wrong? Like,
no, I'm worried about creating the correct feeling. You know, I don't think people like, because Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, or whatever the fuck his name was, is much more paranormal than it would be Highland times. So
are we talking about Outlander? Is that
no? We're talking about Highlander, my friend. Highlander.
Oh, Highlander,
the
film.
Sword.
There can only be one.
No, there can only be one.
No, I don't care.
That's fair.
Because I believe that the film Highlander was not set in Highlander times, so no, it doesn't matter. We don't have to risk it. No one's gonna get confused.
No, this isn't confusing at all, Erin. Not just on its face. And also, I think he was immortal, so he lived in Highlander times.
You think he was immortal? That was the whole point of the movie, is that they're immortal until they cut off your head, and then there can only be one. That's literally the only thing I remember about it.
Wait, was Harrison Ford in the original Blade Runner?
Connery. How many movies do you think Harrison Ford was in?
No, I said it's in the original Blade Runner.
You made that mistake one time, and now you think Harrison Ford was in every movie.
No, I was doing a callback, Erin, honestly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, cool callback. Great comedy. I'm sorry. No one's listening anymore. Do you think we should do the book?
Guys.
Because they're not even...
No, okay, we have to do the book because it was so good. It was the best book ever. It was so, so good. Okay, we are here to talk about The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare, everyone.
Now, when you say best book ever, do you believe it was better than When a Scot Ties the Knot?
Oh, don't do that to me. Right? I knew you were going to say that to me, and I didn't. You know what I meant by that. I don't know if it was better than A Scot Ties the Knot.
I was just wondering what you think, because I'm torn.
Oh, I'm really torn. I don't know.
Dare I say, I think I like this hero better than Logan McKenzie.
Really?
But I think I like the heroine
in the other one better. I don't know.
And
the heroine in this one's
better
really
for
good.
any reason. Yeah, she's great. But I just found her quirkier.
You just love that she drew snails.
Yeah, I love her snails.
You love the shit out of those snails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't know. I think I have to say I love them equally, which is a total cop-out, but I've become a mom now, and I think I'm allowed to do that.
No one ever loves anybody equally.
Says the only child. Okay.
Yeah, also, the chances of me having not one child, but two are very slim, so I feel like I can say that with confidence.
Fair. Okay. I would like to introduce Emma Gladstone, who is the heroine, and the Duke of Ashbury, who is the hero. So the Duke of Ashbury, and I'm calling him that. I'm not calling him his real name because he doesn't have a real name. They talk about what he could be called, and he's only ever been called. I don't talk about that. Ugh. That was also her father's name, so it doesn't exist. But I'm getting ahead of myself, listener. So the novel opens. She is a seamstress. She is walking around outside trying to get up her nerves, and she's in this horrendous wedding dress.
Well, expertly fashioned.
Oh, of course.
Dress, no. But ugly design. Or just over the top.
Yes, exactly. Later on, he describes it as unicorn vomit.
Yes.
Or the pelt of some snow beast rumored to menace the Himalayas. Which made me so happy. So she is going to knock on his door because she needs payment for this gown. And nobody has paid her in months and months and months.
She made the gown.
Yes, she made the gown. And so she goes in. She knocks on the door. She has no calling card. She has no anything because she's a seamstress. She's like a servant, right? And the butler shows her into the library. But before that, the Duke of Ashbury was writing a letter to his solicitor saying like a bunch of stuff. And then the last thing was that he needed a wife because he needs to create an heir. So this is like on his mind as she walks in.
He's kind of like reluctantly writes it too. He's like, ugh, wife, need a wife. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't blame him given his previous experiences. So Khan, the butler, walks in and he's like, there's a woman here to see you. and she's wearing a wedding dress. And he's like, okay, show her right in. She comes in and she's like, Your Grace, I need payment for this immediately. It is past due. I have written to you. I am being evicted. I have nothing but moldy potatoes in my larder, I'm going to say. Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
And like, she needs to pay for it. And so he's fairly charmed by her. He doesn't really understand why she's a seamstress because she seems like I think his exact words, and I laughed out loud at this, were there's entirely not enough hand wringing about this request. Like, you should be looking down at the floor. You should be terrified of me. What's going on? Why aren't you? And he finds out that she's a vicar's daughter who is now turned seamstress, which means that she is of gentle breeding or something like that.
Right.
She's a gentleman's daughter. So what we find out is that this was the dress of his intended, but she left him because of his crazy ass scars all over his face. Because he was in a battle. He was in the Battle of Waterloo, and a mortar turned back on him and blew him the fuck up.
But only on one side, so he looks like Two-Face from Batman.
Yeah, he does. Two-Face from Batman. And yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
So she made this wedding dress for his betrothed, and then since they didn't get married, she didn't get paid. She's about to get thrown out, so she shows up and she's like, I need that money. And she wore the wedding dress for effect.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, she was just like, I didn't think that you would pay any heed to me if I just showed up as myself. So here's what I made. Pay me for it. And so he goes, sure, I will. But I'm going to need the dress. And she takes a couple seconds to think about it. And then she's like, it's either get unclothed right now in front of this man or sleep on the street. So, all right, here we go. And she starts disrobing in front of him. And so he stops her and he's like, stop. Okay, whoa. And then in his brain, he's like, okay, she's of gentle birth. I don't know, whatever. She's educated and she's willing to get naked in front of me. Checks all my boxes.
Healthy.
Yeah, healthy, right? So he's like, okay, you can have this money or I can make you a duchess.
She's like, what?
And she's like, you're making fun of me. Stop making fun of me. Give me my money. I gotta go.
Wait, though, before this happens, I have to, can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
So he asks her, how does the daughter of a gentleman end up being a seamstress? Because that's not something that happens. And she's like, well, sometimes life takes an unexpected turn. And he says, well, that is a grave understatement. And then he says, Fortune was a heartless witch in perpetual anticipation of her monthly courses. And didn't Ash know it? And I just want to tell you this. Have I ever told you about my hairdresser?
No.
This is the only story I have. Actually,
the one
I just
in
told her about the
Alaska?
podcast a couple weeks ago, so maybe she's listening. Yeah. So the first time I visited this hair salon 3 years ago or whatever, I'm like, I just need a hair salon. I go in there. She got in a fight, like while doing my hair, she got in a fight with like the front desk lady. And I think there was like a hairbrush thrown, but it wasn't in the same room I was in. And then she comes back into the room and she's doing my hair. And she's talking to one of the other hairdressers about what a bitch the front desk woman is. She doesn't work at the same salon anymore. It's fine.
Oh.
She's talking to one of the hairdressers.
You think?
It's fine. About what a bitch the front desk woman is. And she's like, what is she, like a werecunt and it's a full moon or something? And I thought that was...
I would follow her anywhere.
The best insult I'd ever heard in my life. So I'm giving that to you, HBs. What is she, a werecunt and it's a full moon or something?
Oh my God.
And I was like, I don't, like at the time, she hadn't even dried my hair. So I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to be back.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I will be back.
That's incredible.
Anyway, but that's exactly the same statement that Ash makes. Fortune was a heartless witch in perpetual anticipation of her monthly courses. It's the same thing. Anyway, I highlighted it. I was like, werecunt. All right, so back to the story.
Werecunt!
We'll just put an extra big E on this one for explicit, I guess. I think this is the first time we've thrown cunt out there.
I think that all of them have to be super explicit, but you know, that's cool. Okay, so she turns him down because she's like, that's not even a real offer. Like, she's not even turning him down. She's just like, stop making fun of me. Oh, and then she's like, are you actually mad? Like, I'm going to approach this money slowly and then back out of the room very slowly and then run away and pay my rent. And he's like, he thinks to himself, don't worry, Duke. She'll be back.
She also says, surely you don't mean through marriage.
Yeah.
And he says,
oh my God. He brings up the laws of primogeniture.
Yeah. He's like, no, I intend to use my vast influence in the House of Lords to overturn the laws of primogeniture and then persuade Prince Regent to primogeniture.
Yeah.
Then persuade Prince Regent to create a new title and duchy? I don't know. It was like a whole thing. That accomplished, I will convince him to name a Victor's daughter from Hertfordshire a duchess in her own right. Of course, I mean through marriage. I am a duke. I am not asking you to marry me. I am offering to marry you. It's a different thing entirely.
It is a different thing. Oh man, he is so hung up on what dukes do and what brides do throughout this whole thing. It makes me really happy in a really odd way. It shouldn't.
I'm very in love with him.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, he ticks all the right asshole boxes for you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
Exactly the ones.
Okay.
Danielle has the same order for me, except for she doesn't say banana.
Oh my God. So
I don't want to imply David's an asshole. I didn't mean that. I just meant,
no,
I
he's
like
the right type of asshole.
Yeah, you need a little pepper in your pie.
Yeah, Michael is the same way. So wait, one thing that I will say about this whole thing is that it's going to be really hard for me not to turn this into Heaving Bosoms, a romance novel podcast where we read you the whole book. Like, that is how this is probably going to work. Okay, so she says no. The next day, isn't she fitting Davina at that point?
It's Davina, I think.
Yeah.
So she's fitting a woman for a gown, and she's clearly about 5 months pregnant, and they've become friends over the time that she's been Davina's seamstress. But Emma doesn't want to be rude by being like, hey, you're pregnant, I can tell, even though they're friends. So she's like, oh, I've got to let this one out. And she's like, oh, too many tea cakes, I guess. And then they kind of come clean. And she's like, I don't know what to do. There was an artist and I loved him and he left and I don't know what to do. So she's like, I'll try to help you if I can. Then
she's
even
closing
though
up the shop. Oh, yeah, she's closing up. She's about to lock the door. And the door is locked and he's pounding. So she goes up to it and he just pushes his way past her.
I am Duke.
I am Duke.
I go into shop.
Roar. Yes. He goes in and he says that he wants a waistcoat. And she's like, well, you've come to a dressmaking shop. So sorry. And he goes, fine. I want a dress for a woman roughly my size. And I want it now.
Yeah.
And so she says that he has to be measured for it. And he jumps atop the stool and does this little ta-da move, which I really found adorable in my mind's eye. And she gets to measuring him.
Yeah. She's like, if you want a gown. And he's like, no, I don't want a gown. And she's like, okay, if your very ugly Duke-sized friend wants a gown, I need measurements.
Yep.
She says, I need your sleeve, I need your torso, your hem. She arched an eyebrow. Bosom. She thinks he's going to be like, fuck it, I'm out of here. But then he doesn't.
Yeah.
She measures him sexually.
Yeah, so
let's see.
As that happens, he's like, so I made you an offer yesterday.
Do you want to accept it?
Right. How do you feel about that now? And she's like, that wasn't an offer. That wasn't a thing.
So he's like, it was an honest offer. I intend to marry you. I would like to make you a duchess. And she's like, get out of here. Stop laughing at me.
Right.
I'm gonna leave. And he's like, okay, well, get into my carriage. I will drive you home. And she's like, I'm like blocks away.
I want to walk.
He's like,
yeah. And he's
all right,
like,
my feet are even
better.
closer. Yeah. So he walks with her, and she's very cold and shivery, and she's like so absent on this walk home because she's so distracted because she doesn't know what's going on. She leads them into like a very dangerous park sort of situation.
Oh, that's after she almost walks into an apple cart and he has to catch her, and then they almost kiss.
I forgot about that.
And then they keep going. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. He makes such romantic gestures to her on this walk as, you are a healthy woman of childbearing age. You are a gentleman's daughter. You are educated. You are passably pretty. Not that that's a concern for me,
right?
But a child should have at least one non-hideous parent. And you're here. All my requirements are met. You'll do. That was probably the most unfeeling proposal she could imagine. Which is true. So anyway, they end up in this park that's dangerous, and he's like, this is a dangerous park. And then, like, as if just to prove his point, these men appear out of nowhere, and they're like, give me all your jewels and stuff. So he's like, yeah, and like jumps into protective mode.
Wait. Sorry,
yes?
I have to say one thing. After he says all of that, my thing is, she was thinking to herself, the man was cynical, insensitive, condescending, rude, and she was definitely going to marry him. It made me
right, because
so
how could
happy.
she not? Like, she's kind of putting up a fight for her pride, but like, she's a seamstress. Like, she's going to be a duchess. There's no, she's got to do this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so these guys appear.
Yeah. And I love that part because his inner monologue is totally fine. He's just like, get on with it. Tell me that you want my shit and I'll tell you that you can go get stuffed. And then the moment that they attack Emma's honor, he's just like, nope. And that's when
he's swinging his
gets all protective.
Yeah. So he's like starting to beat them up, and then the wind blows his hat off, and they see his scars, and they're like, "Ah, this is the devil!" And they run away.
And then they run away.
And it says something. I don't remember what it was. No victory had ever been so hollow.
Yeah,
it's very sad. So they ran away from his scars. He looks next to him, and he sees that she's not there either, and he's like, "Oh, she's run away as well. Great, I'm ugly and scarred, and I'm going to be alone forever." And then he turns and he sees that she had run back to get a tree branch.
Brandishing a tree branch.
To protect
him. She's going to back his ass up.
He's warmed and he's like, she was going to protect me, the devil, my twisted face and scars. Very, very sweet. So he's like, wait a minute, don't even go home because we're going to get married. So you're going to go to a hotel. You can go home and collect your things. And he's like, you know what? Don't collect your things. I don't want your moldy potatoes. Yeah. Just go to the hotel and I'll send a carriage for you tomorrow. And she's trying to figure out something to get her like pride together. Like she has to have some demand in this union. Like something has to be like hers.
Well, and not to mention that looking forward to a life with a man who says, you're here, you'll do. Like, she'd like something to be able to, I don't know, snuggle at night or care for. So she looks at him and she's like, I have to be able to bring my cat. And he's like, oh, for a bride of convenience, you're becoming most inconvenient or something like that.
And her inner monologue is,
she didn't even have a cat.
Emma, you idiot, you don't even have a cat. so now not only does she have to go to this hotel and like wait for his carriage, she also has to find a cat on the way. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. So then we jump straight to the wedding.
Yeah. I mean, she appears with the cat the next morning.
I love this.
It's just like the most dumpster cat that's ever lived. And
it's obviously malnourished. It's like the bitch has got mange. Like, I don't know what's happening with it. And so they're staring at each other, and he obviously doesn't like the Duke either. But he looks at Emma and he's like, what's its name? And she is like, like obviously pulled from a thought, and he goes, what's its name? And she goes, Breeches. So the cat
she
is
was
nearby.
Looking at his breeches and how he filled out.
Oh, she was looking at his peen.
His breeches. We don't know that yet. She told us.
We don't know that yet. Yeah. Spoiler alert, Erin, honestly.
And then she's like, I can't let him go or he'll run away and we'll never find him in this huge Duke house.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you can't hold a cat during our wedding. And she's like, yeah, I can. And then I think it bites her or something. She drops it and just like it goes off in a streak. And then she's like, well, we'll never see that again.
And he's like, cat. One can only hope.
Yeah.
So then they go in to get married, and she's like, well, if you want me to sign all these documents, then I'm going to need a minute. And so he goes to the other side of the room, and she starts reading them. And he's like, what are you doing? Because he's very nervous as well. He wants to get this over with before she comes to her senses in his mind. And she's like, well, I don't sign anything I don't read. Do you?
He's like, you literally have nothing to lose. Like,
yeah. He's like, yeah. She's like, well, he had a good point, but I will still read everything I sign. And so then she bonds. I love her so much. She bonds with Con the butler. He's like, FYI, we're really pulling for you. You're either going to be the making of him or he's going to be the breaking of you. And like, we're all here with you. We're all ready to support you.
We're all rooting for you.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you have any advice for me? Like, how do I, And he's like, I suppose it's too late to run away, so maybe drinking heavily would be...
Right.
She's like, oh, shit.
She's like, oh, great, everyone. Still signs the paper, still gets up, and they marry. 2 servants sign as witnesses because he has no friends.
Right.
And
also,
then,
well, before that, their agreement is basically...
No, they haven't made the agreement yet.
Oh, they haven't talked about it yet?
Mm-mm. They're about to make the agreement.
Didn't he say no kissing before the wedding?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. Sorry.
So the marriage is over, and he says there's going to be a few rules in this. Oh, she says, I want to have dinner nightly.
What's after?
No. Mm-mm. She's like, if we're going to have is it?
Let's have an all-out fight here on the podcast. This is the hill I will die on. I don't know. I honestly don't. I think it's after, but like... I thought it doesn't matter. Thought he did his rules, and then she was like, okay, your rules are noted. Here are mine. I thought was how it went.
Oh, yeah. I think, no, you're totally right. You're totally right.
Good, because I died on that hill for this.
You didn't. You didn't die. You made it out alive on that one.
Oh, yeah. That's how that
that works. Yeah. So I'm really glad that you're an army lawyer and not an army strategist.
You don't know.
I don't know. You're right. I don't know how things are worked. There are so many acronyms I could never keep up. Okay. So he says, here's the way this is going to work. No kissing, no affection. We're married at night, basically only. I will come to your bed nightly. You will permit me. And as soon as you're with child.
And no lights.
Oh, and no
lights when we do the sex.
Right. He describes it as it will be as dignified as it possibly can be, which sounds like the worst sex in the world.
And quick.
Oh,
he's like, also, I haven't had sex in 2 years, so I can at least promise you it will be very quick.
Yeah.
And she's like,
and then, and he's like, and as soon as you're with child, we're done. You go off to the country house to raise the kid, and we're good to go. And so she's like, fine, I have a rule of my own then. I will acquiesce to all of those, but I want dinner nightly. And he's like, fine, we can have dinner. And then she says, and I want a kiss. And he's like, woman, didn't you just hear me say no kissing? And she's like, no, I want a kiss for my wedding because that's what I want. I didn't get a wedding in any other way that I imagined. I would like a kiss to seal the deal. And so she's like, you don't even have to kiss me. Here, I'll just lean up into you and I'll kiss you. And he goes, no. The bride does not kiss the Duke. The Duke kisses the bride.
It's a different thing entirely.
So she closes her eyes and waits for him. And it takes him.
Yeah, she almost changed his mind. She says,
oh, yeah. Get it.
Okay. She was on the verge of opening her eyes and slinking from the room and constructing a fortification of pillows, novels, and kittens in which to hide for the remainder of her life when his hands cupped her face, rough and possessive. Just when she was certain she'd combust from the cruel suspense of it all, his lips touched hers. Something inside her came apart, that hidden pocket of yearning that she'd sewn up tight years ago. His kiss ripped it open at the seams. A flood of emotion poured forth, overwhelming her, a surge of passion and desire and something else. Something, are you fanning yourself? Something she didn't want to acknowledge, much less name. She'd pour over it later, more doubt, but her mind wouldn't allow her to let it alone. And then it switches to
him.
And he's says, got the same...
Oh, man, it's so good. But he says, I'm just going to read a tiny part of it. The kiss unfurled tendrils of madness in his brain. Everything was wrong. Everything was right. Everything was possible.
Ugh. So good.
So good.
Oh, hey, HBs. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you get over 150 bonus episodes, most of which include Erin, videos of regular episodes, author hangouts, and so much more. Do you want to hear Erin and I recap every single episode of Crash Landing on You? What about a little film called Psycho Stripper? Do you want more recaps of ridiculous Thanksgiving and other holiday books and movies? And how do you feel about Naima Simone and I recapping amazing reality TV? All of that and more is on the Patreon. There's so much content at your fingertips as soon as you sign up. Seriously, hours and hours. Anyway, it's patreon.com/Heaving Bosoms Podcast if you want to check it out. And of course, that link is in the show notes. Keep being a badass.
And during the wedding, so he's got one half of his face is super scarred up. The other half is very handsome. And she keeps looking at him and staring at him and then realizing that he thinks that she's staring at him because his face is all mangled. But she's really just like kind of drawn to him and wants to see what he looks like. But every time she tries to like take
so she does the very natural thing in early flirtation where you look at someone and you're not sure, like, if you're allowed that, like, close intimacy. And so when they look at you, you avert your eyes. But in his case, psychologically, he can only think of one reason she would avert her eyes so quickly when he caught her.
Stare. Like, she either averts her eyes or, like, blatantly stares at him.
Yes. And it's a no-win situation from his perspective, you know? So after everything, Emma is shown to her room where she meets Mary, her lady's maid, who is adorable. And then she really learns that the staff is all pulling for her to the point that Mary is like talking about how all of their fortunes are tied up with the Duke falling in love with her because he's been in such bad temper since his injury and all of that. Like, he doesn't have any friends. He doesn't go out. He lives in the house. He is basically like if Bruce Wayne only had the Batcave. Like, he doesn't, he has no other alter ego. So,
well, he does, but it's even worse.
But it's even worse, right? We'll learn that later.
Lives in the house, but he doesn't have like a daytime alter ego.
Yeah.
And Mary also notes that Emma is so much better than the previous betrothed. And she's like, listen, there's like nothing you could do to be worse than the last lady that was here and was engaged to him. So like, you're good.
And boy, is she right.
Yes.
Well, and didn't we already meet her at the dressmaking shop? Maybe not yet. No, doesn't matter. Okay.
We've not met her.
Fair. So, okay. So then she goes down to dinner.
I mean, Emma has, and Emma didn't like her when she did her dress. But we didn't meet her, if that makes sense.
That's true. Okay. So she goes out to dinner, and their place settings are at the far ends of like a 30-foot table or something ridiculous. Something very Dukely.
This is like a kind of a tired gag, but I was still down for it.
Oh, no, I was totally down for it. So then he mishears something she says, and she's like, well, this is stupid. And she pulls up her bowl, and she marches down to the end of the table, and he's like, really? And she's like, yes, actually. Dinner, if you recall, involved conversation. So they go back and forth about like how English people speak about the weather and dumb things. And then she starts a nickname bit because she's like, what do I call you now that you're my husband? And he's like, you may call me Ashbury or Duke. And she's like, that's stupid. I can't do that. Like, that's not an intimacy. That's what everyone calls you.
Right.
And they go through the whole thing. There's nothing like appropriate from his actual name. And so then she starts with dear husband, sweeting, and heart. And he hates it, which I love. And then the cat jumps on the table and grabs one of their mackerel or something. And he's like, all right, this is over. And he throws his napkin and leaves. So then he goes to her room. She makes herself ready, as all England Times people do.
What does it mean?
I don't know, but she was ready because Emma is our girl.
Tessa.
Yeah.
I think that she's listening because she got deep in our Instagram comments last week.
I would die. I would literally die.
I know, but I think it's like maybe a 30% chance that she's listening to this. I don't know. We're pretty far in. But
I'm so starstruck if that's true. Like, her brain is incredible. She's so good.
Tessa Dare.
Hi, Tessa.
If you're listening, or if anyone else listening knows, what does it mean? What does it mean to make yourself ready? Is it just taking off the clothes? Is it rubbing of oils?
Not. Because remember, in this time, she doesn't get undressed because later on she's like, I would have gotten undressed, but I thought you'd want to undress me because she's so cute.
Because she wants it to be romantic because she likes him.
Yeah. Anyway, let us know. Tweet at us. Send us an email. We are not shitting you about this. We are not fucking around. We want to know what making ready means in England times. All right.
Yeah. And then pre-podcast, I will make myself ready for you, Melody, if you like.
Oh, get it.
When I find out what it means.
All right. We'll wash our vaginas for each other and then get on the FaceTime. Oh, boy. I'm still convinced that's what it means.
Already? I think, well, I thought it might also mean like lubing up with the oils too. I thought it was possible
Maybe.
that meant to get, I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know.
I don't know. Our imaginations are running wild and we need to be put to rest. Okay.
The other thing is, I'm sorry, I'm still on this.
Yeah.
I feel like, do they know? Do the women know?
No,
because
none
they
of the
usually
women
don't
know.
even know what sex is. Like, listen back to the Duke and I. She was like, "What goes into where?" Like, when they say "make yourself ready," like I'm like,
Like
she
I
don't even know
said.
what sex is.
Yeah, if I had the amount of knowledge that Duke and I lady had, and I was told to make myself ready, I would just sit there terrified for 30 minutes. I'd be like, what do I have to do? I would brush my hair neurotically. Like, it would be bad.
Mhm.
It would be bad. I'd probably put on like 3 times too much perfume. I would do all the things that would make me a wildebeest instead of a blushing glorious bride. Like, it would be so bad. Okay. All right. So he walks in and he
Snuffs
turns
out
off
all the
the candles, and then he trips all over the place trying to get to the bed because he, I don't know, snuffed off all the candles.
And turned out
And-
the made the fire.
Yeah,
she
he
had a
banked
word
the
for
fire.
this. That was a very
He
England
banked
word.
it. No,
Yeah.
it's a regular word for people
Nope.
who have fires.
We don't do that in Alaska. We just
Well,
always.
you only sort of do that with a fireplace. You bank it so that it like logs don't fall down, I think is what it is. Like in a wood stove, you don't have to do anything. Like banking, if anything, before you go to bed, you load that shit up with wood and then bounce.
Right.
But banking a fire, I think, is like making sure that things are flat. I could be wrong. Write us a letter. Tell us.
Yeah. Anyway.
Let me know.
Okay. But he does that. So it's like completely dark in the room, and it's cold now because he made the fire go up.
Mm-hmm. And so he's trying to make his way over to the bed, finally gets there after like tripping a couple of times and stubbing his toe, and gets up next to her. So he moves his hand he finds her foot and then up her calf, and he's like, it's thicker than I thought it would be.
She's got a meaty calf, you guys.
She's got
I love a girl with a meaty calf.
Me too.
I am a girl with a meaty calf. So.
You know what? I'm just a girl with kinkles, so... I tried in the early stages of my dating Michael, I tried to convince him that I had dainty joints. And even
what
like
does that even mean?
Well, like, you know how women are like, oh, she had such a lovely dainty wrist. Like her bracelet sat so beautifully on her dainty wrist. And I was like, Michael, I am so delicate and I have so many dainty
convince
joints.
Him you were a queen bird.
I did.
Do you know about Queen Bird?
No, tell me. Tell me all about it.
Oh God, I hope this doesn't come off as mean.
Uh-oh.
So, my friend and I sometimes play this game.
Oh no.
It's from, I think, maybe college or high school. It's called Queen Bird.
Okay.
Whenever you're in a crowd, particularly a bar, you look around and you try to find the Queen Bird. And I don't even know how we came up with this, or if it's from a TV show, or like, I don't know where it came from. I think it's just our weird brains. But here are the qualifications for the Queen Bird.
Tell me.
The Queen Bird must have hollow bones. The Queen Bird must be beaked. And the Queen Bird must have plumage.
Okay, how does this actually work on a human form?
Well, so like that's what's fun about
so
it.
The hollow
argue.
bone is like, oh, okay. My brain is the hollow bone is like she's very thin, so she can't hold a lot of weight on her hollow bones.
It's waif-like, like
the
wind could blow her away. But you could also argue that like a hollow-boned person is like a fragile, like a creaky sort of person. You know, the beak is the same thing. Like logically, it would be somebody with a very sharp-looking nose. But maybe the person is wearing a jewelry or an outfit that you're like, well, that's a beak right there. Like you can, beaks have been very pointy shoes before. You can kind of hairstyles.
Okay.
And then plumage is the same. It could be like a particularly loud outfit or hairstyle. You can argue about what plumage there is.
The Queen Bird doesn't have to caw?
No, not necessarily. But you could use that.
Does she do a mating dance?
You could use it.
I'm excited for this game.
I hope that doesn't sound bad. It sounds like we're just tearing down. But it's just a fun game. I'm not trying to
No, it's like your
Being the
team.
ladies and the...
Yeah. All right. So wait. But my point was, even in like the early stages, even in the euphoria that is dating early on, in the your poop must smell like roses stage, he looked at me and he was like, Melody, there is nothing dainty about you. Or something like that. It wasn't that, but it was like, you do not. Yeah. So I just have really sturdy ankles, which has gone to my benefit a lot of times. Anyway, we were talking about this almost bed scene.
All right, I just did a Google for Queen Bird, and it does not come up anywhere. So this is apparently from the minds of me and
boy.
us. Okay, all right.
So he finds out that she has 5 blankets on because she's been cold.
Because he put out the fire.
Yeah, and as he's like trying to take it off, he's like, "Good God, woman!" And she's like, "Don't worry, I'll do the last one." And she pushes it off, and he says that she wriggled in like the best way, and he's so excited. And then he realizes that he forgot his England Times lube, and so he decides
his England Times oil lube.
Yeah. So he's like, well, I got to get her ready somehow. And this is the best turn of events for everyone involved because he starts just giving her a little manual stimulation that is most excellent. And she thinks so too, to the point that she says, she like whispers, please. And he promptly freaks out. He's like, oh, I'm a monster. I've pushed her too far. I've done all the things. Like I'm scaring her. I got to go. And he bounces. He goes walking. And she's like, oh no, like I did something wrong. He doesn't like that I liked it. I shouldn't show that I'm into it or something. She's very confused. So he goes walking and trying to walk off his raging hard on and probably rage. And that's when we get our first peek into the monster of Mayfair, which will come in later. He like chases off a boy who's doing a bad thing. And
yeah, he goes around vigilante style at night, beating up people who beat up their wives or steal things or whatever, much like Batman.
Okay, so I had such a hard time with
was like
this.
Looking at some Batman when she wrote this because you got like some Two-Face stuff, you got some nighttime vigilante. There's a lot of cloaks swirling around.
It's very Darkwing Duck except better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this though because between like it was sort of Two-Face, but there was also a little bit of like Deadpool in there for me, which I really liked because guys, this Duke of my heart only curses in Shakespeare. So that really ticked my Deadpool box, and I liked
Melody's
it.
really gonna like that. And then I looked at our notes. We share a Google Doc to make notes about the plot, so we don't get lost anymore. This is a new development, just so you know. So if you're like, man, 4 episodes ago they were really scrambling, that's correct. So we do this Google Doc now, and I put their names at the top of it. And so I was like, Emma Gladstone, Duke of Ashbury, and then Melody promptly added, he only curses in Shakespeare. And I'm like, that's something you don't even find out until like halfway through the book.
No, it's one of his best characteristics.
Apparently it deserves to be right next to his name in the Google Doc.
It did. Okay, so then the next morning, Emma wakes and like writes a note to Davina, and then she starts writing a note to her father, a letter to her father that's like, there's a lot of different iterations, but basically like, hey, you fucker. I'm doing well now, and a good man did want me. So get out of here. And he's a duke also. He got so many monies. He's making it rain all over my ruined person.
She's kind of alluded to it. Should we just say what happened to her? I think
let's. Well, okay. I was gonna save it until they till they actually.
Okay, that's fine. But her dad was a monster. Like she keeps alluding to the fact that her dad turned her out at some point.
Well, and she's been on her own for the past 6 years. A gentleman's daughter has been on her own since she was 16. Not cool. Okay,
so badminton.
Well, but I love this part because because of last night, she's like wondering if he actually wants her because she writes in the letter like, and a good man wants me, and then she's like, but does he? Because like as soon as I showed I was into it, he left. Like he might just be doing his duty. Of course he's not.
And she thought maybe like she showed that she was into it, and he was like, you harlot, like
yes,
you need
you
to
Jezebel.
Not be so
harloty and Jezebel.
Yeah.
You sluts McGee.
Strumpet. It's my favorite word.
I love it. Oh yeah, because her father told her that no decent man will ever have her, and I want to punch everyone in the face. Okay, so she goes exploring, and she hears grunting And I was red herringed right out of there.
You were?
I didn't fall for the bait, but I was like, what is happening in there? There's like grunting. And then Ash says to Khan that it's his turn to receive. And she walks in and they're playing badminton. And it's super cute.
Which was not a game at the time.
Yes.
Did you read her note?
I did read that. I loved it. She was like, hey guys, I know. Don't send me letters about how badminton wasn't a thing. I just knew that you wouldn't know what I was talking about unless I said it.
Yeah.
And it was very smart. Good job.
So,
good job, Tessa Dare.
They're playing badminton so that he can exercise his bad shoulder.
Yeah. Because
And
he has to keep
Khan
his skin stretched out. Otherwise he'll lose all movement. And Khan is like, I am the butler. This is not normal butlery duties.
Yeah. And it turns out he makes him do all kinds of stuff. Like, he makes him play badminton. He makes him, like, box with him. He makes him play
fencing.
Fencing.
He makes him waltz.
With
he
him.
tried to waltz with him once. It's so cute. So Khan gives her his racket and runs the hell away. And he mouths the word, save me. And this begins this adorable segment between them. She says that they're going to play. And if she wins, he's going to give her a modicum of respect. She goes, how much is a modicum anyway? Somewhere between a sou-cent and a wit, I imagine. Then I want an ounce. An ounce? 2 ounces. Actually, no. I should like a full pint of respect. He shook his head. Now you're just being greedy. Like, the banter in this is so good.
What I like is she's playing to win, but like to get her respect or whatever. She's like real bad at badminton.
She's probably never played.
Yeah, but you know, in these books, a lot of times they just come out of nowhere and they're real good at stuff. Like what's her face and Jane was like real good at darts, which was fine. I liked that Jane was good at darts, but it was kind of nice to have her like just be like, "Fuck, I'm real bad at this."
Totally. So then, and he's like, okay, if I win, you have to leave me alone all day, like during the day. You have to stick to the agreement. She's like, fine. And they play, and as they play, they banter more. She starts with more nicknames, and he's like, you won't do that. And then they start going back and forth about how much they've been through. She's like, I got thrown out when I was 16, and I've been on my own. And he's like, well, I had a mortar hit me, and I was near death for about a year, and like, blah. Oh, God, I loved it. And then finally, she calls him Lambkin. Oh, he shows her how to serve. And then she calls him Lambkin. And he chases her and lifts her over his shoulder. And they, like, play, but he's in pain. And so she's like, you are in pain. Don't lie to me. And he's like, no, it's none of your concern. She's like, I am your wife. That is my job. My job is to be concerned about you. My job is to care. And it's like breaking his heart. He's like, you can't do this to me. I mean, he's saying this to himself. He's like, you can't. This is killing me. And then Khan breaks in and it's like, your solicitor's here.
Oh, not before he teaches her how to serve, Melanie.
I told you that.
Oh, sorry. I
said that.
I was reading for quotes here. Sorry. I apologize.
Oh, good.
Okay, so he leaves.
So then that night, she is impatient for his touch. And his first words upon entering, which I love, are, tonight it will be all business. In, out, done. And she's like, she never thought that this like gruff treatment would do it for her, but she is into it.
She's kind of about it, which I like.
Yeah, I loved it. So he pulls back the cover and she's naked. And he's like, good God, why are you naked? And she's like, why would I not be naked? Like, I thought you wanted to undress me, which is the only reason I was wearing clothes. Like, I thought that was making myself ready.
Right.
All right?
What do you want, man?
Really, though, what does he want? So he's just like, okay, fine. You're naked. Great. And she gets up on her elbow and she's like, what am I doing wrong? Like, do you just want somebody to like lay there listlessly? And he essentially tells her yes. And my favorite is that she goes, very well, I'll try. Like, because it would be hard for the best of us if we're really enjoying ourselves just to lay back and think of England. I don't want to think about England at all at that point. So then, even though he says that, as he starts touching her, she feels like he doesn't think that that's the way it should be. And so he's touching her all over and he starts talking to himself. He's like, how are you here? How did I manage it? And then he grabs her hair and he's like, this is lovely. And everyone is just swooning all over the place.
And she can't stay still. Like,
And she
of
can't
course
stay
he
still.
can't.
No, he's touching her all over. Oh, and so then she touches his chest because, you know, she wants to be an active partner in this. And he stiffens. And she's like, I'm sorry. And
he's like, we discussed this.
yeah. And so he shoots her down. And then he's just like, all right, fine. Getting down to bit. Like he sort of comes back to himself. And he's like, good. I have a thing to do. I came here to do a thing.
Not before he says, so he's like, we discussed this. And she's like, no, I'm sorry, I forgot. When you touch me that way, you know,
yeah.
And he's like, don't forget it again, he said in a low, thrilling voice, or I'll be forced to tie you to the bed. At this suggestion, her intimate muscles fluttered. Is that meant to be a threat? Because I don't seem to find the idea entirely objectionable.
It's like,
you don't?
You don't?
She licked her bottom lip. Well, you're very good at this, apparently. And what with the dark, and it's all very shadowy and sensual, like one of those feverish dreams one has on a hot summer's night. This is something you dream about, being pawed by a hulking stranger in the dark. Emma squeaked out her tentative reply. Maybe? Unbearable moments passed in silence. You are incredible, he said. I love it. It's being pawed by a hulking man in the dark, and she's like, maybe.
I mean,
yeah, it's good times.
And it's so good. And so then he's like, okay, fine. You know what? You're right. Like, let's get down to business. So he kneels in between her legs, but then just as like he puts his erection over her slickness and she is all into it, just as he's about to enter her, he stills. And she's like, no. Like, I'm fine.
Don't
I'm
stop.
good.
Very, very fine.
I am very, very fine. I'm good to go. And he's like, shh, we are not alone. Because he sees these two eyes off in the distance. And then the cat attacks him. It's hilarious. Then he leaves again and he goes walking, probably to beat some fuckers up in order to assuage his frustration. So then she meets up with Davina the next day, Davina the pregnant girl, and they make more plans about them both going to Swanley. She's hoping that she can be pregnant by Christmas so that she and Davina can go and be confined together. Because she finds out that she's not allowed to go anywhere at all until she's pregnant. She needs to stay at the house trying until she's pregnant. So they get dressed and go to dinner later. She finds out the staff are making more plans for them. She's like, do you find yourself clumsy? She's like, oh, Mary says this. And they're like, you know, we just don't know. Maybe you should trip and fall into his arms. You know, she's like trying to create these meet cutes, essentially.
Maybe they would lock them in the attic for a while. They're like, how do we get them to fall in love? Otherwise, our employment is terrible. Like, he's got to get nicer.
Yeah. And so then she goes down to dinner and he is not there. So she's looking around for him and he's sitting in front of a cold fireplace because the cat is hiding there. And she's like, what are you doing? He's like, shh, I am going to trap this beast because nothing is getting in between us tonight. And she's like, Like, she is so charmed by this and I don't blame her.
He's been there for 4 hours, he says, trying to get the cat to come out so she can trap it.
Oh my God.
He puts it in a box with like air holes, but nothing else. And he's like, he'll be fine.
Like, no, not yet.
Oh, I thought he did.
No, he does. But as they're sitting there, she finds out about why he curses in only Shakespearean curses, because that's what his father told him to do. And he loves his father more than anything else. In fact, as he was going into his wedding ceremony, he thought to himself, like, turns out I am marrying for love. It's just not her love. It's the love of my father. It's the love of his legacy. It's the love of, you know, wanting to make sure I fulfill my duty. And then she alludes more to the boy, the man, the kid.
She talks more about her father turning her out.
Yes.
That situation, but doesn't reveal the whole thing.
And then they catch the cat. He puts it in a box with air holes and a salmon sandwich because she goes and gets sandwiches for them and they have a little picnic in front of the fireplace to get this fucking cat. And it's so cute. And then after he catches the cat, he looks at her and he goes, all right, you have 3 minutes. She's like, what? For what? And he's like, well, I'm going to go upstairs and change my shirt and wash my hands and then I will be in your room.
I didn't think room was what we were going to say. Be like, in your vagina.
You know what? You got to keep people on their toes, Erin. I'm not always going to go blue. So So she turns and dashes up the stairs. It is so cute.
Mm-hmm.
They're both like itching to be together. So she runs up the stairs, and as he comes into the room, he doesn't knock, he doesn't do anything. He just strides right into her room. She's like furiously trying to unbutton her clothes, and he picks her up by the waist and tosses her onto the bed. And all of my heart palpitations palpitated.
God.
And then she's like still trying to get her clothes off. And he's like, don't bother. And then he gets up and he straddles her hips and he rips her bodice down. And the seamstress in her, God bless her, she thinks, oh God, I can mend it tomorrow. and she's like thinking about the thread she'll use. And then he starts kneading her bosom, not like dough at all. And then I love this because he goes, you like this? And she kind of can't handle herself. And she's like, yes. And he's like, good. I just want to make sure before I do this. And then he gets down and he licks her. and she's like, I thought you had rules. And he goes, it's not kissing. It's licking and sucking. And then more things happen. And man,
that passage I read might have been from this night, but both nights were great.
Oh, all the nights, all of them were really, really good. Every time we saw something, it was excellent. Wait. So then she tries to touch him again, and he, this is where he threatens to tear her to the bed.
I just hadn't highlighted much from the night before, and so it kind of bled into this night. I apologize.
Fair. I don't care. It's fine. I mean, it does really heighten it since he's been all up on her titties.
Yeah.
And then, and so he calls her incredible, like you heard. And then he goes down and he touches her a little bit. And then she felt his tongue there, she says. And it was excellent. And then the perspective shifts seamlessly. It does this throughout the book. It did this in The Kiss. It goes from her perspective and then it immediately shifts to his and it's perfect. Same here. And I love his commentary here. I think I have it. Yeah. So his commentary here about like bringing a woman to orgasm. He goes, bringing a woman to orgasm had always been a particular pleasure for him. With most women he'd known, even if no deep affection was involved, a climax required a bit more than a skilled tongue and fingers. It took closeness, trust, intimacy. Feeling a woman come beneath his hand, his mouth, his body. Well, it made him feel like king of the planet, of course, but it also made him feel connected, human. Now he was a monster. What woman would allow this scarred, repulsive face between her thighs? Emma would, apparently. Whether that labeled her a lunatic or a fool, he would decide later. She was likely both. He'd convinced her to marry him after all. And I just love it because it's, first of all, it's so true. There has to be something, unless you're really working at it. I don't know. But I just love the commentary, and I love the thought it shows from him. You know what I mean? Especially for like an England Times chap. It was just so good. The sex scene in here was so good.
The next thing that happens is he goes out again, doing some vigilante stuff.
Yeah, except now he's just like skipping in the town. He's just doing a jaunt.
Can't wait to find somebody to beat up.
I don't even know if he wants to beat anybody up here. He's just going for a goddamn walk this time. And he runs into Tom. Tom is so cute.
So he's like an 11-year-old boy, and he's just like, hey, oi. You're the monster of Mayfair. And he's like, no, I am not.
Of course not.
No, you definitely are. Like, you're definitely fearsome and ugly, just like the papers said. You got your hat, you got your cloak. And he's just like, get out of here. And he's like following him. He's like, well, where are we going tonight? What's going on? And he's like, I just want to,
there is no we.
Yeah. I just want to live my life. And the kid's like, I want to see you beat up somebody who like really deserves it.
Yeah. Should we find like a bad dude?
Yeah. And so he just takes his cane and pushes it on the boy's chest and like topples him over backwards. And he's like,
pushes him over.
You got it.
Yeah. Now you've witnessed it. Okay, and also my note here in my Kindle is, why is that boy out so late? Because I am a mom now, apparently.
He's got good parents who let him do the things he needs to do.
I'm sorry, in England Times England, No.
This is
No.
he's making good friends.
People are...
I'm sorry. They let him run around at night.
Mayfair.
And you know what he gets to do? He meets a
even.
duke. He's probably going to give him some kind of like I don't know, house. Listen, it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah. This kid. Oh, boy. All right. So then next day, Emma goes to tea. She finds friends. A friend across the square, I don't know, messages her. Messages her. Oh, my God.
She texts her, hey, girl.
She texts her,
we've seen you from across the
I know.
Wouldn't that be great? Just in the middle of this thing is a text.
Oh my God. So a woman just told me this story. She was writing a note and her 8-year-old was asking her about it. He's like, oh, is that a text? And she was like, no, it's a note. And then she went out to get the mail and he goes, oh, Mom, is that how you used to get your email? So good.
There was a great video on the internet, and I know there's a lot of these like clickbait videos like millennials trying to figure out blah, blah, blah. But there is actually a really good one where kids try to tell you what a payphone is. Or like you try to tell them, like basically like 10-year-old children see a payphone and they're like, what's it for? And you're like, well, if you need to make a call and, you know, you're out and about. And they're like, but you'd have your phone. And they're like, well, say your phone is dead. And like, but then you just use somebody else's phone. Like they just don't understand like why they would ever use one of these. Anyway.
Yeah. So during this tea, they come up with more nicknames, which is super cute.
Okay,
and they like instantly become friends.
These friends are great. So they got 3 friends.
Oh,
one
yeah.
is a baker.
Excellent
one is
side
a
characters. Clockmaker.
Time setter.
Clock mistress. She's a time wizard. Oh,
so when
no.
I was in DC, my friend Andy and Andy listens to the podcast. Hey, Andy. He'll remember this. We went to this tour. Andy had put us on a list to go to this tour that was at the there's telescopes. I don't know. The National Astronomy something place. And like they set the time there. It's like I forget the vice president's house is there too. I don't know. I'm sorry. I was not prepared for this story. So anyway, we go on this tour and like part of what they do there is they set like the accurate time from this place. They've also got like a big telescope and stuff. And there was like a weird motley crew of people that were there that night for this weird tour we were on. And this man was like, I'm just here for the time. And we were like, okay. And he was wearing a shirt that had like clocks all over it. So and they had a lot of cool clocks there. So I was like, oh, so are you like a clock enthusiast? And he was like, a time enthusiast. A time enthusiast. And we just, like, Andy and I just could not stop laughing at that. We were like, the time child. Like we couldn't. Time. Anyway, so she's a time enthusiast like this guy. He had said that he had 20 clocks in his house that were set like perfectly to Greenwich time. And I'm like, that's this lady.
It is. Yeah, Alexandra. So she's a time wizard. And then Penny is
she's an animal person.
Yeah, she's basically, if ladies were allowed to be veterinarians and if those existed in England times, that's what she would be.
They're barely even allowed to be vegetarians.
Yeah. She's also a vegetarian, which we'll get to later. It's so cute. So they come up with more nicknames and they're best friends.
I mean, this is the first book in a series. The other 3 are going to be about these ladies, right?
I surely hope so. And if not, Tessa, if you're listening, hi, if you're listening, I wouldn't hate at least a novella about each of these ladies. Right?
But it's got to be.
That would.
Otherwise, what's the point of this, right?
I hope so. I love them. Well, and one of them meets a man in a weird way. Yeah.
The time child. Time Lord.
Yeah, Alexandra can't hold her shit together when she's
that's
talking to someone.
Be it.
Hey HBs, I started an Etsy store. Did you know? Right now, it's full of all the St. Vincent items you need because St. Vincent is thoughtful and cozy all year round. We've got a book sleeve to keep your books, planners, e-readers, or really anything else safe when you're on the go. The inside is fuzzy and they feel so incredibly lush in your hands. I went round and round with the manufacturers to make sure I had just the right thickness. Those feature art of St. Vincent and Evie during their carriage adventure that was painted by the amazing Mayara Faraz on one side, and then I created a St. Vincent Would Always wreath on the other side that has a bunch of little Easter egg items in it. There's a St. Vincent Would Always warm brick enamel pin. It's like, if you know, you know. I designed a special edition marriage of convenience candle that is specific to Devil in Winter with the help of HB Jen at Post Pouring Company. It combines dark amber for St. Vincent and rosewood for Evie, and it smells so delicious. It's hard to even wrap my brain around. So if you want to treat yourself or be the St. Vincent you want to see in the world by getting a care package for a friend, check out our Etsy store. The link is in the show notes.
Okay, so they meet or whatever.
And then back at the house, Ash hears like these big kerplops and bams, and she's taking down the curtains in one of the rooms because he's got the whole house just like basically boarded up. And there's great banter about him looking up her skirt because she's just standing on a ladder. And he's like, somebody needs to be holding this ladder.
We have servants for this. Why are you taking down curtains? And she wants to make a dress out of the curtains. He's like, you're a duchess. You don't sew your own dresses. We order dresses. You don't take down your own curtains. Like, stop doing this. And yeah, it's
really cute. And so he grabs her hand and he's like, there will be no more calluses, essentially. And she calls it caring. And he says, he's not a dictionary, but it's certainly not that. And she says, no, you are very much a man. and everyone loved it.
So then they go out to her cottage.
Oh, and then they hold hands. No.
Sorry.
Do not skip over when they held hands.
Yes.
It was so cute.
Oh, it was good in the early morning light streaming in through the window because she'd taken
wisps of her hair
curtains down. She said that it needed to be lighter in there. He can't always be in the darkness. And he's like, yeah, I can. And they hold hands and they lock eyes. And he's like, this is so dangerous. We shouldn't be doing this because we've got to part ways as soon as you get knocked up. And she's like,
yes, precautions. And then they part. Okay. And then they go to
Swanley.
So they go and they get marooned by their driver.
Yeah. So they go out there so that she can write down all the improvements that need to be made because there's no furniture, there's no linens, there's nothing in this house.
There's no wood in this house.
Yeah, no wood.
There's nothing.
So she writes down all her improvements. They go to the carriage and the carriage is gone. And she's like, oh no.
The servants got us.
Yeah. Yep. They're not going to be back till the morning because they want us to.
Yeah. And I love this because she like refuses to huddle for warmth with him because she's just like, no, that's what they want.
They want us to
and he's
huddle.
like, and he's a little bit like, oh, really now? And she's like, no, I don't object to you. I object on principle. But long story short, they huddle, everyone. Because she starts shivering. She starts shivering uncontrollably.
I can't make the long story short because this is when I fell in love with the Duke.
Oh, tell me all about it.
His story about the Mad Duchess.
No! I love that too.
She hears this like scraping noise. So it's pitch dark because there's no candles. There's no anything in this house to keep them warm or lit. And so they're in pitch dark and there's this like scraping noise upstairs. And she's all like, did you hear that? And he's like, oh yeah, that's the resident ghost. It's a haunted house. That's the Mad Duchess. And she's like, the Mad Duchess? And he's like, oh yeah, every country house has a ghost. And then he made his voice mysterious. I'm sorry, I'm going to read it.
Please, I'm biting my fingernail over here. I love it.
The story is that my great-grandfather took a wife, a bride of convenience, for the purposes of siring an heir. She was pretty enough, but he began to regret the match soon after the honeymoon. Why? She asked. 100 reasons. She tore down the curtains. She conspired with the servants. She called him ridiculous names. Worse, she had a demon consort that assumed the form of a cat. Oh, really? Yes, really. She sounds terrible. Indeed. She was so much trouble that he locked her in a cupboard upstairs and kept her there for years. Years? That seems extreme. Extreme is what she deserved. She'd driven him mad. And he'd meant to return the favor, locked her up, tossed her a crust or a dampened sponge from time to time. And on cold nights, you can still hear her scratching and clawing to get out. It was so good. And she's like, you're a cruel and horrid man.
Oh my gosh, it is really good. And you know what? This should be when you fall in love with him, because this is basically David running Rue's social media account.
This is David doing everything David does. Like, you think Rue's social media account is the beginning and end? No. This is constant. This is my life. Yeah.
I love it so much.
You know, he hides constantly in the house. I've told you this, right?
What?
Oh my God.
No.
Like, it's just like a constant thing. Anytime where his car's in the driveway, I don't have eyes on him, he's hiding. and he's going to jump out at me. It's like a constant thing. He will wait.
Okay, I would hate that. I almost punched my foreign exchange student in the face. Like I nearly, I mean, I did punch her in the face.
Is that story related
yeah, she jumped out at me and she never did it again because I just reflexively punched her in the face. I'm sorry, Lun. I'm glad that I didn't break your nose.
He will hide under the bed for like an hour to like commit to this. And one time I was home and his car was in the driveway and I knew he was hiding and I was skulking around the house and I'm like, I know you're hiding, you know, this is bullshit. And like I looked in every closet and under everything, and I went into the backyard, I went everywhere, and I was like, I know you're in here, motherfucker. Like I know that you're hiding, and like he's done this where it's been like a long time. So finally, I just sat in the middle of the basement and I turned on like The Bachelor, and I just kept loudly being like, I'm gonna know if you're behind me, you know. And after like an hour and a half, I called him. Because I thought maybe his phone would go off. And he's like, what's up? And I was like, I know you're here. Where are you? And he's like, I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings with Chuck. We're watching a game or whatever. And I was like, oh, cool. And he was laughing so hard. He's like, you thought I was hiding in the house? For how long? It was like an hour and a half. I had all the lights on. Like every light in the house was on. It was bad.
Oh,
felt like an idiot.
So funny. Yep. He's conditioned you.
He really has.
He loved it. Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yes, this is my everyday. Okay,
so she's cold. He holds her. And then they fall asleep. She wakes up and she's like, oh, I have to make myself pretty for when he wakes up. And she fixes her hair and pinches some her cheeks and everything. And then she
under her face.
Pretending to be asleep all daintily. And then he wakes up, looks at her, and he goes, good morning. I'm dying for a piss.
And he's like, oh, is it morning?
Yeah. She does that thing where women sneak out and brush their teeth and then sneak back in.
But they do cuddle together. She's very, very cold just as a person. That night, like
everyone.
What?
Sorry. I love this heroine.
Yeah. So I just wanted to note her coldness, and I just wanted to say,
and she shivers and shivers.
Boom, boom, boom. Military knowledge with Erin, as a trained Army Arctic warrior. Don't say the C in Arctic. I gotta like get my.
Oh my God, you Arctic warrior.
So listen, guys, if you have been a cold weather injury in the past, which this woman has been, you are at a much higher risk to be a cold weather injury in the future. So a lot of times that poor Emma is shivering or later on fainting or losing feeling in her toes and fingers, there is no weather that is too cold. There is just not enough gear, and Emma almost never has enough gear. So I just wanted to caution everyone. If you've been a cold weather injury, make sure you're prepared. All right.
Yeah.
That was my little consent rant. That's
Bing boom bong.
Yeah. Bing boom bong. The face you made during that, my safety rant just now, is how I feel when
you know what?
You go off on a consent.
I was so supportive of you and your cold weather gear rant. Okay. I was there. I was giving you all of my attention. I was not snoring in the corner like a jackalope.
I don't snore. How dare you? Like a jackalope? Who was that? Who was that?
I have no idea. Oh my God, last night.
And now you're a member of the Reindeer Mafia?
I had a Reindeer Mafia moment last night with Michael. We were sitting at the, we were watching 3 Billboards, and which is so good, P.S., we also watched Fish Penis this week.
Oh, how was it?
And it was also it was so good. I love that movie. It was so good. Okay, but
so would you have sex with the fish man, like the poll we put out on our Facebook?
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, for the story or because you're in love with the fish man?
For the story, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so last night at some point, I don't remember exactly what happened. Oh, there's a moment in 3 Billboards with a bunny. And I was like, Michael was reminding me something about this $7 bunny. And he was like, yeah, because it costs $7. And I was like, oh, yeah, the $7 duck. And And he was like, Duck, it was a bunny. And I just burst out with ribbit.
What?
I just ribbited at him.
God, you didn't get your brain right.
I don't know what happened.
You need to make your brain better.
I don't think I can. And also, it's just entertaining enough that I don't know if I want to. Because every time I randomly burst out calling you a jackalope, it's a surprise to me too.
Oh man,
Okay.
No wonder you like Sandra in Love Hacked so much.
I do. I love her.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So the next thing
So
that
Alexander
happens-
comes over to set all their
Right.
clocks because Emma understands what it is to be a working woman. And she's like, okay, you're going to come and set all our clocks weekly and you're going to charge us 5 times the rate you normally charge. And I'm going to tell all of my future friends, which I probably won't ever have. So they end up in Ash's bedroom because they're looking for another clock for her to set.
where Emma's never been.
And Ash is playing something.
Yeah,
He's probably playing
cricket,
badminton.
something.
Yeah. So she takes her up and they hear him coming in
Mhm.
and she like pushes Alexandra behind a couch and jumps back there with her.
And
And Alexandra's like, what are we
This is
doing?
your
This is your
husband."
husband. Just tell him we were in here and then
yeah,
we'll go.
it's not a big deal. And Emma
She's like,
flutters her hands and she's like, I panicked. I don't know. Just, I don't know. He's going to be mad. I don't know. And so,
Yeah.
like, and Alexandra, bless her heart, just kind of like,
Goes with it.
can I just
Oh,
got
no.
a text from Dana.
It's
It says, hello, are you talking in the internet right now? He doesn't understand. Are you talking in the internet?
okay. So
Joke's on him. I can't
um,
text him back because I'm talking on the internet.
it's true. It's true. Okay. So he comes in and she watches him. He starts undressing so that he can like take an England Times sponge bath. And he starts disrobing and she sees the rest of his scars on his back. And she's like, oh my God, this is so much more than I originally thought. Like, wow.
Mhm.
She's really floored by it. And she's also really impressed
Mm-hmm.
and even more attracted to him because she's like, look at all the things he's overcome.
Right.
Look at all this nonsense.
Because
Like,
there's like literally chunks of him missing.
yeah. Oh, my poor darling.
Not
Poor
that
darling
pain,
angel.
though. Toxin
Not.
tack.
That's right. Then Alexandra has a thing that falls on the ground and he's like, who's in here? Because he goes from 0 to murder
Mhm.
anytime he thinks there's an intruder. And I don't hate that about him, I don't think.
I don't either.
So she fesses up and she's like, it's me.
It's me, and I'm definitely alone. And then she distracts him for long enough that Alexandra can then crawl out the door because she's a true friend. And she's just like,
Well, and wait,
I don't
have
understand
to-
this, but...
Exactly. And I love this moment because she's trying to make sure that he doesn't look, lest the whole situation devolve into what she calls Dante's lesser known invention, the 6th octagon of awkward. I was like, it's amazing.
So he's angry because he thinks that she snuck in there to see him and like ogle at his
And
scars
gawk.
and
Not ogle, gawk.
oh, that's the same
Like-
thing to me. Does ogle have like a love connotation?
Ogle is supposed to have like a nice.
oh okay,
I
like gawk,
think.
stare, like look at the curiosity.
Like treat her like a freak show.
Yeah.
Right. Treat him like a
Right.
freak show.
And he even says that he's like freak shows you can pay whatever
Right. A sixpence.
an England coin to go watch a freak show for even less and see something not even
Yeah.
as hideous as this.
Yeah, and she obviously takes offense to this because she's like, no, that's not even close to what it is. Like, not at all. And he can't fathom anything else. So he's like turning in a circle for her. He's really making a meal of this, being
Mhm.
like, good, take your fill. Look at the freak. And she's like, no, I don't. I've caught you staring before.
Right.
And she says, yes, you have caught me staring, but not for the reason that you think. And he's like, well, what other possible reason could there be?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, because I'm infatuated with you. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, infatuated? Like, what? And she just runs. She just lifts her skirts up and hightails it out of there because she cannot face him anymore. And it's really cute. And then at dinner, she forces him to talk more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going back and forth because he's like, are you sure it's infatuation?
Are
Like, it
you
couldn't
sure you're
possibly
not getting
be."
your period?
I
It's
know.
like, I've been told that there's like maelstorms of irrational emotion around that time. And, maybe that's what's going on. And she's like, well, now there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's like, no, it's going to end either way. It's definitely, I felt infatuation before. It's definitely going to end. You either wake from the spell or you fall in love. And he's like, well, what happened last time? And she goes, well, I thought I fell in love, but it was really the former when I saw his true colors. And he's like, well, fine. I can make you not like me. Sure. Like, I can do that. I'll just tell you that I don't feel the same way about you. And bless her, my beautiful starshine Emma, she goes, I wouldn't believe you. Right. Because I think you're infatuated with me too.
Yeah. Because you come to my room a little bit earlier every night. And he's like, to get it over with. And she's like, but you also stay later.
A little bit longer.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you keeping charts about my virility? Yeah, and she goes, don't say that you wouldn't love it if I did. It's so good.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, fine, you know what? Fine. If that's what she thinks, I'm not going to her bed at all tonight. Yeah. That'll teach her. That'll show her. And so she comes to, so he's in bed and he's like, think of pus. Think of, because when she's describing infatuation, she's like, you can just hear their name over and over again in your head.
A song that just sings their name. Yeah, he says, let's see. He thought of the most unappealing things his imagination could conjure. Shards of fire propelled with bullet force, colliding with his face, vomiting himself dry while quitting opium. Oh, yeah, he was on opium after his thing. He had to quit opium. Pus, not even the mildly repulsive yellow sort. Green, oozing. Malodorous. Oh, yeah. Malodorous. I know that word.
There you go.
Pus. That helped for a few minutes, but apparently his brain didn't want to dwell on those memories anymore. Not when his mind could so easily reach for her. Emma, 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 Emma is the song singing her name.
And then she comes to his room, and he's like, what do you think you're doing here? And she goes, well, you didn't come to my room, so here I am.
And I owe you something.
Yes. In the spirit of fairness, I owe you something. And so she starts undoing the buttons of her shift. And he's like, his immediate thing is, Jesu Maria. And he like sits up further so that he can see her. And she unbuttons everything. And then she drops her shift. And she goes, I didn't have a cat. Breeches, I found him the morning that I came to you.
Like, why are we talking about a cat?
Yeah. And she's like, he didn't even have a name when I got here. And he's like, okay, why don't you... Oh, no, she says, I have a confession to make. And he says, I hope it's a long one.
I was about to interrupt you.
Yeah.
And it is.
So it is. It's good. And it's a good one. Yeah. So she says, he didn't have a name. And do you want to know why his name was Breeches? And he's like, oh, sure, whatever. Whatever you want to say out loud right now is fine. And she goes, because that's where I was looking, admiring the way you filled out yours. And he goes, admiring? And she goes, I'm wildly attracted to you. And I have been from the start. And it goes on and on and on. And it's so good.
He echoes admiring. She says, yes, perhaps even lusting. That settled it. None of this was real. He was dreaming, and the Lord let him never wake. Ugh, so good. Did they do sex then?
Oh, boy, howdy do they. Oh, wait. So she goes, I'm wildly attracted to you, physically attracted to you. I have been from the first. And yes, I've done a great deal of staring. She stepped free of her pooled chemise.
All right.
I want you with a keen, carnal passion. I won't pretend otherwise, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Not anymore. And then he's like, get out, because the only thing I can think to do to you are like the most depraved things possible. And she goes, you keep saying things as if they're threats. And I don't know why.
Yeah, he says, go now before I use you in ways you don't want to be used. She swept a gaze over him, biting her bottom lip. It's not being used if I want it.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Right before that, he goes, I have a bad side, Emma. One that has nothing to do with my scars. You've no idea what I'd like to do to you. Push you against a wall. Drive my cock into your sweet, wet heat. Tup you senseless, raw, so hard that you wouldn't walk for days. And that's only to start.
My heart soared. I was like, is this a historical?
Oh, my God. I was so in it. I was there. And so was Emma. God bless her. God bless her sweet, sweet face. Oh, yeah. And so she goes, was that meant to put me off? Because if so, it must have backfired.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So then He pushes her up against the post and he kisses her all over her neck, not her lips, her neck and her breasts and everything else. And then he touches her and then he bends her over and it goes after her there. And it's incredible. And they have some really hot doggy style sex.
I really like this.
Please, go ahead.
She said, please, I want...
Yes, I was just about to read that.
You know what I want. He says, if you want my cock, then tell me so. I want to hear you say it. I can't, she says. You can. After all, it's in Hamlet.
It's in Hamlet. That's right. Well, and she has this great moment where she's like, I'm more comfortable with it being inside me than like saying it out loud,
right.
but like maybe that's why he wants to hear me say it. And so she does. Oh, and then there's some excellent talk while he's, okay, hold on. Here, I love it when I have a personal love of making like sex akin to drug addiction sometimes. Like it just works for me somehow. I don't know, man.
What?
So he goes, I've lived in the grip of laudanum. I know what it's like to crave, to tremble with wanting, to be ruled by need. It nearly destroyed me. This is worse. There's no respite. As soon as I leave your bed, I'm counting the hours until the next night. Like, it's just so good. So, anyway, it goes on, and everyone loved it. And then...
yeah, then she stays with him for the first time.
Yeah, because they're gonna go for a hat trick, as our Rachel Gibson would say,
yeah.
and other people in culture.
He says, tell me you aren't too scandalized. And she's like, I am scandalized the perfect amount, thank you. But my legs are jelly and I want to lay down.
Yeah.
So then her feet are ice because, again, she's had a cold weather injury and she needs to not play with this.
Oh, boy.
Circulation.
Yep.
It's a problem.
Don't play with it, everyone. So he starts rubbing her feet and then he's like, tell me about this boy. And I love this PS because she's like, why would you want me to do that? And he's like, because I want to write them down. I love keeping track of the people I hate. He said this earlier. I like to write it down in little books and pore over it and like laugh ominously. Yeah. It's so funny. So then she tells him the thing that happened to her. She had a flirtation with the squire's son. She was convinced that on this night of a dance, he was going to ask her to marry him. She made herself... Yeah. And she made herself this beautiful red dress, and she was so excited for it because she thought it was the day she was going to be betrothed. And they go off to a corner, and she's like... Then he started kissing me, and then it went further. And even then, I really thought he was just going to ask me to marry him after. Like, I was so dumb.
He was taken by the romance of it all.
Yeah, just like she was. But turns out, no, he's an asshole. And so... They were caught. And her vicar father called her a Jezebel and a strumpet, told her no man would ever want her, and threw her out into the England Times winter.
Yes. Which is colder than the current England Times winter.
Oh, I mean, you know what? She had slippers on at the very least.
Gear not up to
gear.
None
No
gear at all.
No gear. Yeah, she may well have been just naked. Like she may as well. Oh. Anyway.
What she was wearing was probably worse than being naked because it was probably a lot of silk and cotton and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So... because this all starts because he's rubbing her feet and she's like, no, don't touch that one. I'm missing a toe and it's unsightly and I don't want you to see it. And he's like, first of all, that's hilarious.
Take a seat.
Yeah. But it was so cold that on her walk to London,
she had to walk from
Hertfordshire?
All the way to London, which is probably several London miles. I don't know.
So he is livid. She falls asleep and he goes to haunt her father. She goes all the way to Hertfordshire to the vicarage, climbs in his window, and freaks the fuck out at him. Wakes him in the middle of the night, and he's like, I'm a demon from hell. You did your daughter wrong, and you're going to hell unless you make amends with her, unless you're truly repentant and sorry and all the things. He really wanted to kill him.
He's so funny in this scene. I just loved how funny he was.
Yes, he's cursing only in Shakespeare. He's hilarious. It's so good. I was thoroughly charmed. You need to buy this book immediately and read it if you haven't.
He says something about how he has to go back to hell and like file a bunch of paperwork.
Yes. Oh yeah, because hell is flaming brimstone and bureaucracy. Yeah.
He's basically like, all right, I'm ready to take you to hell. And he's like, well, why are you going to hell? And he's like, because what you did to your daughter. And then he's like, wait a minute, what day is it? And this guy's like, this is Thursday. he's like, Thursday, cock it. You know, like, that.
I've got the wrong day,
I
but I'll
clock
be
things
back.
up. It's a devil of a delay when there's so much to be done. Once you arrive in the internal furnace, there are sinful debts to be settled, hell to pay. It's not merely a saying. Then there are papers to be signed and filed. And he's like, papers to be filed? And he's like, naturally. It should come as no surprise to learn that hell is a vast, inefficient bureaucracy. It's amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's excellent. And then she's in his library getting books. And we have another patented Tessa Dare nerdgasm moment that I was so into.
I don't even know what
he walks in.
to. What is this?
Oh, he walks into his library and she's getting books down to be like, what do I want to read? Because let's review. He won't let her sew and she has nothing to do all day. So he walks in to find his wife ransacking the bookshelves. As he stood in the doorway watching, she tucked a stray wisp of dark hair behind her ear. Then she licked her fingertip and turned the page. His knees buckled.
Mm-hmm.
In his mind, he scrambled to piece that half second into lasting memory. The crook of her slender finger, the red pout of her lips, that fleeting, erotic glimpse of pink. She did it again. Ash gripped the door jamb so hard his knuckles lost sensation. He wanted her to read the whole cursed book. While he watched her, he wanted the book to have 1,000 pages. And then he's like, oh, and then she reaches up and goes on her tiptoes, and he sees the sexiest thing in England times, which is the arch of her foot and white stockings. he's like, I can't handle it anymore.
Those meaty calves.
Ooh, give me those cankles. Yes, he goes over to her, and he's like, I was thinking that since this marriage is all about siring a child, we'll have much better luck if we do it more than once a day. And she's like, do you think so, dear heart? Or something like that. And he's like, that's just simple mathematics. And then he's so excited that she's into it.
Yeah.
And they have more sex against the bookshelf. And thus begins the saga of them having sex all over the house in the middle of the day, which is most excellent.
But then she sends
him
a note. She doesn't come to dinner one night. And she sends him a note. Says that she's sick this week and she can't come to dinner. So he's like, oh, she got her period. And he knows he should be disappointed because she's not pregnant, but really he's like, I get another month of doing it. Yeah. Okay. Okay,
so then he goes out walking again and Thomas decides that the monster needs a sidekick called the Menace, which is so cute. Yeah. He's like a little Robin to his Batman. And I loved it.
It's great.
Yeah. She shows him a recent monster articles and is like, this is not okay. People are only seeing one side of you. And he's like, yeah, that's great. That's the only side of me they're ever going to see.
Whatever is in all the gossip pages for all the awful things he's doing.
Yeah, and he's like, people aren't going to see past my scars anyway, so like, why the fuck not? Mm-hmm. And she's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I loved this line. He goes, I'll make you a bargain. I won't pretend to know how it feels when strange men stare at your tits, and you won't pretend to know what it feels like when people stare at my face.
Fair.
Touche, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Touche.
Mm-hmm.
And then she asks him to tea with the gals.
Mm-hmm.
So they have adorable tea with sham sandwiches, which are supposed to be vegetarian ham sandwiches, which I can only imagine the grossness in England times.
Or current
It's so
times.
Cute. Okay, put yourself away.
Sorry.
And it's so cute. Like, the whole scene is adorable. He bonds with everyone just a tiny bit.
And it's like the first time he's been out of the
Penny
house during the day for like 2 years because he's so worried about his scars. So it's nice.
And all of them are so nice to him and everything is wonderful. Mm-hmm. And then she's so happy with him that when they get back, she gives him this gloriously sensual and excellent BJ.
Mm-hmm.
After tea. And he's like, well, I would eat 100 of those sandwiches if I knew that.
But also he's like, wait, we're supposed to be procreating.
Yeah. And she's like, what are you going to do? Take me to court and say, my wife did put her mouth upon me? Like, it's so good. Okay, so then a wardrobe arrives. The wardrobe he told her that she had to order.
He says, you can't keep sewing your own dresses. You're a duchess. You have to order a wardrobe. So she does.
Orders him a wardrobe. She doesn't order. Oh, she still ordered a wardrobe, though. He never specified. And it's so sweet because it's she made it looser in the shoulders to accommodate his scars. She had them put in panels that are like softer fabric so that it wouldn't hurt so much. She made the colors different. Like, she really put a lot of time and effort into this, and it was so sweet. And then he basically is like, he can't bring himself to tell her all the lovey-dovey things he's thinking. Mm-hmm. So he's just an ass. And she's like, this is a unicorn vomit moment, and I want to murder you. Mm-hmm. And huffs off.
Yeah.
But then when she gets back, he's going to make it up to her. He has a brand new dress for her, and he's taking her to the theater.
Yeah, because he kind of gets scolded by Khan, right?
Yeah. Khan is an excellent side character as well. This is filled with fabulous side characters.
Yeah, because Khan's like, you pissed her off. She did a nice thing for you. You could do a nice thing for her. Because she's kind of been begging him. So she's got this plan that she's going to whisk her friend Davina away to the country still. But to do that, her dad needs to give her permission to go away to the country with this Duchess. So her dad's not going to give her permission to go away to the country with the new Duchess of Ashbury if he's not met the Duchess of Ashbury or the Duke of Ashbury. So she's been trying to get him out to social stuff so that, like, eventually
he can
Davina's
finally
dad
meet
will,
this guy.
But, like, so she tried it a little bit with tea, and then she's, like, trying to coax him out more. But he's just like, no, tea was a one-time thing. I did it for you. It's over. So Khan finally convinces him to go to the theater.
So he takes her to the theater, and it's so sweet. He's like playing down in the lobby area of their house, because their house is a Duke house with a lobby. And it's so cute. Anyway, they go to the theater. Everything is wonderful. He tells her that she has to sit all the way at the front of the box because everyone needs to see the beautiful and wonderful new Duchess of Ashbury.
Can I talk about another moment when I fell in love with him, though?
Okay,
when he's waiting for her at the bottom of the stairs. He's got his hat and his cane. And so he's like bored because she's late because she didn't know that this was happening. So she's got to take a little extra time to get ready. So he's like throwing his hat in the air and like catching it with his cane. And then she appears at the top of the stairs and he doesn't want her to know that he's like doing this silly thing. So he just throws the cane and it like crashes on the floor. And he's like, I'll have Khan see to that thing that's happening. I don't know what was going on. It's amazing. So good.
It's so good. Anyway, so then a little while later, he's like, okay, we have to go home now. And she's like, we're barely through the third act. He's very
restless in the theater.
Yes. And she's like, we're barely through the third act. And he goes, you're going to want to go home as well. Otherwise, you're going to slide over here onto my lap so I can take you right in this theater. And she goes, you keep saying things that only intrigue me.
I want to say one more thing. When he pulls her chair up to the front and he's like, you need to see the play. You've never been to the theater. And he's also like, he's trying to say, you should be seen. You wanted to be seen. You should be seen. So he says, tonight, he said, you will shine like a jewel, a ruby, an extraordinarily big ruby. He cocked his head. You'll be the world's largest ruby on record. I suppose. One with arms. And she's like, was that intended as a compliment? He sighed curtly. Let's begin again. You are my Duchess. You are beautiful, and everyone should know it. And as she took her seat, Emma tucked the words away to treasure later, and treasure them she would. You are beautiful. No matter what happened, she would always have that. And also the part about the jewel with arms, she supposed. That was my favorite. I love that line. The other thing, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So then he goes to get the carriage because they're going home and she is ready to go home. She's like a little bit, she's ready. And somebody comes into the box. She turns around thinking it's the Duke, and it's that fucking wench, that previous fiance of his. She basically tells her that he only brought her here and he only married her to spite her because she left him. And he's like, well, you know what? The best revenge is if I marry your seamstress. Right. Which doesn't make any sense, but I totally understand why she freaks out.
Yeah. And she says, it's the first Thursday of the month. My family goes to the theater on the first Thursday of the month, and he's brought you here on this night specifically.
This is where we met.
And she's like, let me guess. He pulled you all the way to the front of the box to tell you that you needed to see the theater. Well, really, he wanted you in the front of the box
to see you.
Everybody to be seen. And she's like, he was antsy and he was staring at me the whole time. Like, how could he be so stupid? It was
horrifying. So Emma is freaking out. The Duke comes back and he, bless him, eviscerates this woman in the most polite way possible. But Emma doesn't hear it because she slipped out and she's fucking off. So
there's something really good in here about like the woman that used to kneel at her feet.
Yeah, she says, I'm not going to curtsy to the woman who used to kneel at my feet.
Yeah, there was something about her kneeling for him or something.
Yeah.
I forget what it was. It was like, just like, it was something like, just because you get on your knees for him now, don't forget that you used to kneel at my feet. It was awful. It was so cutting, and now I can't find it, but it was awful, terrible.
It was horrifying.
Yeah, then he eviscerates her. However, what's-her-face, Emma, is already gone because she's horrified by this.
Yeah. She's running, and it's raining out, so he runs after her to catch her. He finally catches up to her. It's full-on downpouring. And I saw a tweet that Tessa Dare did where she was like, the question was like, what's your favorite writing device? And she goes, rain. Fighting in the rain, kissing in the rain, doing anything in the rain. And this rain scene, my friend, checked all my boxes. It was the best. It was the best. And it was a great...
I honestly, as soon as this started, was like, she doesn't have a cloak. She's wearing cap sleeves. That's all she's got. And we know she's a cold weather.
She's a cold weather survivor.
You need to get her out.
Okay.
With that rain.
No, it's true. Well, and we'll get to that later. So they have this, fight-ish thing where she's like, you brought me here because of her. And he's like, don't be daft. And they finally make up. It's beautiful. Please buy the book and read it yourself if you haven't already. I'm going to say it again. And he goes to like make everything up to her, and he pulls her into his arms and he kisses her, and they have this beautiful, gorgeous, earth-shattering rain kiss. And then he picks her up. Oh, because she faints. She faints.
Yeah.
And he carries her to the nearest inn and gets a room. And she's like, no, don't be ridiculous. Like, this is too much. We can go home. And he goes, it'll take an hour to get home. She goes, that doesn't matter. What's an hour? And he goes, 60 minutes too many, he said testily. You're wet and you are cold. You don't like being cold. Therefore, I despise you being cold. I would go about murdering raindrops and setting fire to the clouds, but that would take slightly more than an hour, perhaps even 2. So we're here, and you will cease complaining about it. Like, that's one of the moments I truly, and once again, fell in love with him. I was just like, murder the raindrops. Set fire to the clouds.
See, that stuff just doesn't do it for me as much as like the Hat and Cane sort of moments or the Mad
that
Duchess.
did it for me too.
Yeah.
Yes. But I just, we're going long, so I was trying to, I don't know. Okay. So then,
so the next morning,
so the next morning, Thomas shows up. Yeah, well, they don't do sex because he's a gentleman and she's a cold weather injury survivor.
Some tea. It's very nice.
Oh, it's so sweet.
But here's my logistics. Logistics with Erin. She's naked because he takes the dress off. I think they even rip the dress, maybe.
Oh yeah, no, the dress is in shreds.
She's super naked.
Yeah, that's the best thing to warm people up. She's on his cloak with his jacket over her, which isn't a lot.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Tom bursts in the next morning, and she gets up, walks over to Tom, is like, nice to meet you. Then they go home in the carriage. I'm like, what the fuck is she wearing? Tessa, what was she wearing?
I don't know either. Tessa, we don't know what she was wearing.
Was it a bikini like Shades of Vampires? Is that what England ladies
I can assure you, Tessa Dare did not have that kind of reckless moment.
She didn't have her sleeping in a wet bikini.
How dare you?
Okay, I'm sorry.
How dare you, sir? Okay.
Okay,
so then Tom shows up and he saves the day. He's like, I've got a carriage waiting.
Wait, we didn't even say what's happening. There's this crowd gathering outside because the innkeeper reported to somebody the monster of
Fair.
Yep. Monster of Mayfair is here, and he has taken a woman in red who's unconscious up there, and he's probably murdering her, so there's like a mob outside. So Thomas shows up in what is now his Tom the Menace costume, which is like a fencing mask.
Fencing kit. Yeah. That's so cute.
And so he's like, what we'll do is we'll switch outfits. I will be the menace of the monster of Mayhaps, and then be the menace of Marmarana. And we go downstairs and I'll distract everybody for a few minutes so that you can get away. So that's what they do, and they go back to the house.
So next, she goes back to the dress shop for reasons that we don't have to talk about. She goes to Fit Divina or something, and her dad shows up to
make amends.
No, to make her forgive him, that fucker. Yeah. Like, it has nothing to do with making amends. Yeah. And so in this, that indignant motherfucker, in this moment, he's like, you cannot begrudge me this one thing that I need. And she's like, yes, I can. How about you come back to me in 6 years? Because that's how I felt. And I was so proud of her. Yes. It was so good. But then during this thing, he describes the demon that came to him. And he only cursed in Shakespeare. And it was so cute. And so she goes home and she's like, you went to my father's house. And he's like, yes.
And
like, I'm not gonna deny it. And he's like, oh God, she's pissed. And she walks around his desk and she kisses him for all he's worth. And she says that nobody has ever stood up for her like that. And she doesn't know what to do with herself. So then he starts kissing her back. And then she wanted to like kiss him for all she was worth. And like, she wanted to worship him and give him everything about her. But the bodies were what were the order of the day right now. And so she starts.
The best.
Oh, man.
Sex scene. He's like, whatever I tell you not to do is what you do. And so he just starts telling her.
No, she says, you should know that if you give me a command, I'll only do the opposite. Right. And so he's like, maybe I can make this work to my favor. Mm-hmm. And so he goes, don't lift your skirts and sit astride me. And so she does.
Yeah. She basically tells him he's afraid to be in love with her, and he's afraid to be with her, and he's afraid of it actually working out. Like he's not actually afraid of her being repulsed.
Yet.
Yeah, that's this one.
You know it is, but like they do a lot of things, and then she goes to open his shirt all the way, and he's like, no, don't do that. And she goes, no, you have to just do this for me. Bear it all. You're not afraid that I'm going to be repulsed by you. It's that you're going to be totally and completely accepted and loved and cherished and everything.
Says,
God, it's
make
so
love to
good.
Me, be brave with me. And that's when.
So then they start, and this contrary sex scene is so good. He has her touch herself.
Yeah, he has like, her don't touch me.
Finger
don't
herself.
Touch me everywhere. And then she touches him on his gnarly side. It's
Wait,
so
and
good.
then she starts kissing up and down. Oh, because he says, kiss me. Mm-hmm. He says, don't kiss me. And so she lavished both sides of him with equal attention and sweet, sweet tenderness until he felt his two halves knitting together in the center, somewhere close to his heart.
This is the kind of scholar looking that you can get down with.
Oh my God.
She didn't fetishize him. She was
truly just
equal attention
loving
to his
him.
whole body. That's what
like she would
love.
anybody.
Yes.
And Tessa, the things you do with imagery, because she's been dropping like his good side and his scarred side, his la la and his la la la. And then this moment was a stroke of goddamn beautiful genius. Like it was gorgeous.
And then he says, don't love me. And she's like, too late. And he's like, don't tell me the words. And she's like, I love you. And he's like, I love you too.
Oh.
We love each other. It's so good.
So then they come apart with each other. But then as they're finishing and as they're like forehead to forehead, she gets this like queasy look on her face. And she goes, I'm sorry. And she runs away and vomits. And he has a really hard time with this because that's exactly what this other lady did to him. Yeah. She saw him and she ran away and vomited.
She said, how could I ever lay with that? And he realized that he wasn't a man anymore.
Thing.
He was a thing.
He was a monster.
It's awful.
And she's also the one who came up with the rules. The no lights, no kissing, nighttime only, and then we're done after I give you an air. And then that's when he was like, I don't want that kind of marriage. At least not with a person I care about. Because he did care about her at that point. He didn't know any better. And so he let her out of the engagement. And they told the story that she was the one who broke off the engagement. So he's like, not again. It says, God, please, not again. Not you. Don't leave me. Not now. Not ever. And she goes, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And he's like, I tried to warn you. It's grotesque. It's repulsive. I wish you would listen to me. Like, I'm not angry at you because I know it's gross. And she goes, you idiot. I'm not repulsed. I'm pregnant.
And she had been pregnant the whole time. When she said she was sick, she was really just sick. And he's like, I thought you were being demure. And she's like, wait, do ladies just hide in their bed for a week when they're pregnant? No. Or when they have their period?
No, when they're...
Anyway.
She's like, no, I was a seamstress. You work. So, okay, now can we speed through the rest of it? Because it's gorgeous. Okay. He's telling her that they're going to like raise the child separately. Like she'll still go off. And she's like, well, that sucks. And Davina comes in the middle of the night and she's like, you have to come meet my father. You have one more opportunity. It's a ball. That lady is throwing it, like the bad lady, the ex-fiance, Anne Worthing or whatever her name was. Mm-hmm. So she's like, okay, we have to do it. She goes up and he confronts her. He's like, what's going on? Who was that? Mm-hmm. She tells him the plan she's had all along. And this fucker,
he thinks she just married him for this plan to help her friend. And he realizes that's why she wanted the cottage ready. That's why she wanted him to go out with her. It's not that she loved him.
Then he goes, no wonder you were eager to spread your legs for me in every corner of the house. Right. The faster you dispatched your duty to get pregnant, the sooner you'd make your escape. Isn't that so? Like, it goes down. It's a heart-wrenching fight.
Horrible.
But she is not. She's like, no, that's ridiculous. First of all, you know me better than that. He's like, I don't think I do. Mm-hmm. He says, you go to the ball, fine, whatever. I can't stop you, but I'm not going with you. I'm not going to help you in this deception. I don't super blame him. Like, he has no skin in the game, and it's a really weird thing to get pulled into. But still. So she makes a dress the next day.
She leaves. He says, our bargain is satisfied, aka you're pregnant. You needn't come back. And I was that is just as bad as I'm not going to write.
Do you ask if I... It was. Yeah. So then, bless him, Khan, badass motherfucker that he is, butler of all time, is like, you idiot. So they're playing that other English game with the ball and the bat. Cricket. That's the one. And so he starts bowling like at this guy's head. And he's like, you're a dumbass. You've got to go after her.
Every man in her life has ever let her down. He tells him about men he didn't even know about that she's told Khan about that have let her down and have falsely acted like they're going to marry her or whatever. So he's like, okay, I got to go to the ball. So he like hastily gets his shit together to go to the ball because she's already left.
And then he goes to run out and the cat, demon cat, runs off. So he goes running after that, screaming, Breeches, like a madman. Somebody catches him and takes him to jail because they think he's the monster of Mayfair.
He's wanted for murder of the lady in the red dress in the end.
And this was a bit, I didn't like this very much because I felt it was like, I'm glad it wasn't longer, but it also felt a little bit too quick and tied up in a bow. Mm-hmm. But, like, basically, the ladies from across the square figure out somehow that he's in jail.
Tessa gets to
pool all their money together.
Insert another, like, political... Oh, I didn't say the first time. You saw Nevertheless She Persisted earlier in the book, right?
Yes, I did.
Her dad was like, she was warned, she was told, blah, blah, blah. But nevertheless, she persisted in her sexing of this man.
That's right.
He was like, well, he's trying to talk to the jailers and they're like, you've murdered people, you've kicked children, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but I've also done nice things. Didn't you see the ones about the nice things? And he's like, fake news. False news.
No, he says false news.
And he's like, but you believe the ones about me doing the bad stuff. Why wouldn't you believe the ones about me doing the good stuff? And they're like, false news. The good stuff was false news. I was like...
It was so timely and delicious.
We just
Tessa
lost
Dare to
maybe
persist.
One listener that was like, no, just in a political podcast. I didn't know about that.
I don't care. Okay, so they bribe the jailer, get him out. He leaves his top coat with the drunk in the jail cell.
So kind.
And he's like, take care of your cough. And then he runs to the ball. He bursts into the ball. He's looking like a crazed person.
Wait, what does he say? Where is it? Where he says, yes, I have scars all over my body.
Oh, yeah.
You have exactly 3, because everyone's looking at him. He's like, I'm scarred all over my body. You have exactly 3 seconds to get over it.
He goes, 1, 2, right. Where's my wife?
Yeah. So she has figured out, she's talking to Davina and her father, trying to convince her father to let Davina go with her to the country so that she can have her baby and they can hide it.
And Davina immediately bursts into noisy sobs and confesses everything because it's actually love that has made her not want to tell her dad.
She feels he'll be sad and worried about her.
Yeah.
And
she doesn't want him disappointed in her. Not that he would turn her out.
Yeah, Emma couldn't even imagine that because she's never known that kind of love from a family. And it was just so sweet.
Ugh.
So she ends up just telling her dad, and no one has to lie or whisk anyone away to the country. And
then they dance. She walks around like a wife who's proud to be on her husband's arm because that's what she is.
They make out on the dance floor like it's 1995. It's nice. It's good.
Oh, it's so good. And then they have Christmas at Swanley, and in the epilogue, they give Khan the cottage on the compound on the estate so that he can have his retirement. And
they make him the godfather of their child. And then they have outside sex.
Richmond. Oh my God. And then they have the most glorious outside sex.
Tooth-achingly sweet.
Yes. She tries to leave her shift because her body has changed and he's not the only one with vanity. And he's like, I am not even going to dignify that with conversation. Like, take it off, woman. It's so good. And then Tessa did something that I love. she had them have a simultaneous orgasm, but she also said how rare those are. She acknowledged that is rare. It's not a thing that happens most of the time, everybody, unlike 50 fucking shades of all the awful. Like, thank you for giving it to us because it does happen, but acknowledging that it's a unicorn. Thank you. And that's it. Go read the book. Go buy the book. Buy 3 copies. Keep them in your house so that when your friends come over, you can give them away. Like, be a friend, everybody.
Oh, also,
have extra copies of this lying around.
I was just sitting here thinking, okay, who recommended this book to us? Who was our reviewer that recommended this book? It was Tessa fucking Dare. That's who recommended this book.
That's right.
She commented on our Facebook thing for When a Scott Dies a Nut, and she's like, hey guys, you should read the Duchess deal
Thanks for the shout out.
Which is shameless promotion of her newest book. Like, we see you, Tessa. We know what the deal is, but we do not care.
But also, here's the thing.
We are here for it.
Well, and we also did it on a date where I had another Tessa Dare book scheduled. So, like, she didn't usurp another author. It was going to be the Huntress of something or other, which I'm sure is fan-fucking-phenomenal anyway. That's not how that goes. That's okay.
Fan-phenomenal.
Fan-fucking-phenomenal. There we go. So, yeah, our esteemed listener, Tessa Dare.
Can't.
I don't think she actually listens. I don't think she does.
First,
I would die.
First, we have Miss
Erin.
Now we have Miss Dare.
I know.
God,
I know.
Damn it. Okay, do you have a lady love, self-love?
Fuck.
It's okay. I heard something this week that I want to share.
Yeah.
I had a total crash this week. I haven't been sleeping. I've been working too much. I've been overextending myself in myriad ways, as I usually do. But the problem is you can burn the candle at both ends and kind of like keep it going, but you can't just like toss it into the fire and expect to like still live.
Yes.
So like I wasn't eating, I wasn't hydrating, I wasn't sleeping, it was real bad. And I ended up in like a shaking fetal position, hypoglycemic situation earlier this week. Don't do that. And then I re-listened to Elizabeth Gilbert's podcast, the last one in the last season of Magic Lessons. She has a delightful podcast. And I didn't research this well enough. I don't remember who she was talking to. I do not know who these quotes are by. But you know that quotation that's like, you have to give up being perfect to be good? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I don't know who said it, but you know that thing like you have to give up perfect to be good. Then one of their other friends, another probably famous person who I don't know who it is, added to that and said, not only do you have to give up being perfect to be good, you have to give up being good to be free.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Just let that wash over you for a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my lady love this week. I was like, that was such a light bulb for me. So there you go.
Yeah.
And I wish I know who said it, but I don't. And unfortunately, my phone's on FaceTime, and that's where my podcasts are. So
no, you know what? I'll make sure to put it in the episode notes.
Cool.
So you can find it there. Okay, you know what? I do have a lady love, and it is that book that you sent me.
What book I sent you?
Forever ago. You
Beauty and the Mustache? By Penny Reed?
No.
Damn it.
No, it's the
Sorry.
I can't even. You're gonna know. I know. You're going to know what it's called, but you sent it to me when I was in a different, like, crazy rough patch. It might have been when I had the miscarriage before Ember.
Oh, the Illustrated Guide to Enlightenment or whatever?
Yes.
Yes.
Illustrated Guide to Enlightenment by...
I don't know.
We'll put it in the episode notes.
I'm sitting in my bookshelf, though. I should be able to find it.
Anyway, I'll put it in the episode notes. It's an incredible book by...
Here it is.
Like a
Your
Buddhist
Illustrated
thinker.
Guide to Becoming One with the Universe by... Yumi?
No.
That's not it?
No.
Oh,
no,
are you talking about the
one...
Pema Chodron book that I sent you?
Yes.
Okay, I don't remember which one. Probably When Things Fall Apart.
Yes, it is When Things Fall Apart.
Ani Pema is a Buddhist nun, an American Buddhist nun. I think the first Tibetan Buddhist nun who's an American, and she's phenomenal. She's not the only, but I think she was the first. She's got lots of great programs out there. I recently took one of her courses that she put out for her 80th birthday. Anyway, sorry. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It's a great book.
So I was going through When Things Fall Apart because I needed to. And there's just there was the smallest little notion in there that I latched onto, which is I'm going to botch it, but I'm going to try. There's the sky and bad things are the cloud.
I got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Things that happen to you are the weather, but you're the sky, and the weather doesn't change the sky. You are the sky, you are not the weather. Yeah.
Oh God! And right before you sent me the book, you said that to me, and like I'm getting a little teary right now, just remembering like the way that it helped me in that moment. And yeah, so I have two lady loves. One is When Things Fall Apart, but the other one is Get Yourself a Friend Like Erin McCarthy. Because
but I also sent you this other book, which is Your Illustrated Guide to Becoming One with the Universe by Yumi Sakugan.
You never sent me that.
I did. And you clearly haven't read it, so you should.
You didn't send me.
I will send. I will screenshot the fucking
fuck.
Amazon thing.
Fuck.
Oh man, sorry. No, I'm just trying to lighten the moment since we're crying now.
I know. I know we're crying.
Shit.
Okay. Anyway, listener, you are the sky. You are not the weather. And Erin, you too.
Yep. And stop being perfect so you can be good, and stop being good so you can be free.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So keep being a badass.
And love yourself as much as you love turning into a werecunt under the full moon.
Yes. I love you to pieces.
I love you so much, Mel.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.